What's up, folks? I am half of your hosts, Konrad, for my Sketchy Goodness, joined, of course, by the amazing, the talented, the handsome, the bespectacled Keith Grachow. Keith, how you doing today, buddy?
Good. How you doing, my friend?
I'm doing good.
Those intros are going to keep on getting longer and longer until they fill up the whole hour.
Yeah, it's the hour. I'll have just a list of accolades of everything you've done. I'll just have to start researching it, and it'll get crazy. Yeah, yeah. Keith, we've talked about a lot on the show. We've done this for over a year now. So we've got more than 24 of these in. We've covered a lot about your art process, writing, AI, allowing the namesake sort of the show, which is just sort of allowing yourself to sketch and sort of feel the art as it comes and do your thing. So today I had a couple sort of questions lined up in my head regarding community, specifically in the area, because we've, of course, located in the GTA in Ontario, the Greater Toronto Area, for those who don't know, in Southern Ontario. But before that, because we haven't really talked about it in a hot minute, I wanted to start with just sort of your thoughts on sketching to sort of reiterate, see if your thoughts on it have changed, and then sort of we'll go into the community end of it. So yeah, Keith, what up with sketching?
Okay, well, let me share my screen so that we can talk about things as I draw, as I sketch. Here we go.
Seems topical.
Yeah, exactly. I already started. Have my thoughts changed, or have I have I evolved my process at all in regards to sketching? Well, I think that teaching doodling has for sure given me a little bit more insight into different age ranges, how to approach different people or people at different ages. So young people, generally before they're like 11 or 12, are raring to go for sketching and doodling. In fact, they do it all the time. And then it starts to, I think, fade away. Somewhere around 12, 13 years old. Lots of kids have much more diverse interests that take them away from sketching all the time, right?
Fair. Yeah.
And I think also, there's things that them from like you're starting to get filled with hormones, so all of a sudden all of your emotional spectrum kind of widens out a bit. It's much more complicated, and therefore you start to think about things in a different way. And I think part of being creative starts to seep into that, or your lack of creativity, your doubt, and the things you never questioned when you were a little kid, all of a sudden you start to question, right? And so I think that's another reason why a lot of kids may stop sketching when they get to like a certain age. And then at some point, they may find it again, or and I think a lot of times that happens if you've been sketching all along. You may just can keep on sketching, but for those that stop, they may stop for a long time, or they may dabble in it here or there. But when you get maybe to a certain age where you have more time to be able to devote to what it is to be alive, so I guess people that retire, they start to think about, how do I spend my time now that I've had my career or my family. And so they may go back to sketching, drawing, and now that's them coming at it with all these years of experience, positive and negative, that I have to kind of break through a little bit. I have to breakthrough if you're positive about it, but you're just not sure where to go. It's giving that direction. If you are kind of like of the negative, you've got some baggage maybe. You just don't consider yourself to be an artist of any sort. It's like a hobby. But I need to be able to say to that person, hey, what you're creating has validity, and sketching can get you that confidence that maybe you're lacking
Hmm.
from years of experience in a negative sort of way, right? Same with people that have been sketching all along or drawing all along. It's just a different way, a different way of approaching them, about just giving them some more tools, really. Um, so for me, as the teacher, I have to figure out how to approach people. The kids are a bit easier, just mainly um, trying not to make it too complicated, just giving them something and recognizing that your direction is going to be, probably a lot of it's going to be missed, right? So you just have to go with the flow with that. And in some ways, it's older people. It's a similar thing, but some of those older people can take a little bit more, right? So
Yeah.
you have to learn, like, how much to give people, and read the room, I guess, right?
Well, so it's interesting you mentioned that. So one quick shout out, our good friend Paul Kemp says,
Hello,
"Good
Paul.
evening, Konrad and Keith. Always a treat to catch Sketchy Goodness show live. Paul, we love seeing you. Thank you for tuning in." Um, it's interesting you mentioned that, Keith, regarding sort of how sometimes older people can take feedback better, because recently, an educator who shall who shall remain nameless, um, had sort of an interesting situation come up. So hypothetically, there is a student who has been sketching and drawing. So this would be someone who's grade 11, 12. So 16, 17. And this student had never had any formal classes, but was genuinely talented. Um, and what ended up happening was they had applied to take a grade 12 art course, because it's something they wanted to do. They were thinking of pursuing it in higher education, even though they hadn't sort of had the backing for it credit wise. And what ended up being the deciding factor of whether or not they could take this course without having, grade 10, grade 9, grade whatever classes, actually kind of came down to their ability to take feedback.
Mhm.
Because apparently this student was not very good at basically taking criticism, and it would sort of
Mhm.
start lashing out, even though they were noticeably talented, which I found very interesting. And it put the educator in sort of an odd position of whether or not to allow this person in. Um, so I guess just to sort of tail off of that, when it comes to getting comfortable sketching, uh, getting comfortable drawing, and most importantly, getting criticism. When constructive, let's be clear, I'm not talking about someone being like, that's a shit drawing. I mean, someone who's actually going to say, like, hey, your line work here is a little wavy or whatever. Um, what are some tips, some tricks, or perhaps some mental states you could suggest for being more open to it, given your own career, but also now that you're sort of teaching a fair age group of people?
Well, I mean, for the person receiving the critique, the best thing they can just do is to listen, to not make excuses for uh, anything that they've done. Like, as much as within you, you want to say something. And I mean, I can give you an example of that just happened to me this past weekend, where I had somebody looking at one of my comics, and they looked. They said, did you letter this? And I can tell by the way they said it, they were kind of, it didn't sound like, oh, this is a great lettering job. And it was
Yeah.
kind of like and I didn't say anything. I'm like, yeah, I did letter it. And I could have, I guess, asked why, what are your thoughts? But, and, like if you're looking for critique in regards to something, that would be a question to ask, and then let them tell you what it is that they were thinking. When I'm in sales mode, I'm not really like,
Yeah.
that's not my thinking at the moment, right? I mean, but it did cross my mind to make an excuse to say, oh yeah, I'm not very good at lettering and blah blah blah. And so the best thing to do is just to stay quiet, or if you have a question, if somebody says something, you can ask, well, what's your thinking here, or
Mm.
why what is it that I need to do to improve this? And if they're gracious enough to give you their time and experience to do that, you just listen, and you don't make any excuses. You don't say, oh, this isn't my best work, or whatever was going on in your life at the time that prevented you from making it better, right? Like you just need to take that information in. And now, that being said, because art is subjective, or the person that's
Yeah.
giving you the message isn't giving it, and may not be giving it in the most constructive way, you do need to be aware that like it may not be, that person may be bringing their own things maybe it's a pet peeve of theirs. So what they're talking about may not be accurate. So you
Mm.
have to always take that with a grain of salt. When I've used to show my portfolio around at conventions, I would for like, just if you're showing your portfolio around, make sure it's okay to show it first of all to the person at the table. But if you get
Yeah.
the approval, and they're willing to give you the time and experience that they have to give you the information, they may go through it and tell you what they like, what they don't like. And I would have contradictory information from some pros, and I'm not
Yep.
talking like, I'm not even talking people that are just like, maybe they've been around for a year or two. I'm talking like high level,
Mm.
they work for Marvel, DC pros that would contradict what another pro would say. That like, almost from table to table. Like, one pro would say, "Oh, you know what? I love how you rendered this. Blah blah blah. You may need to work on your composition, but keep at it." And then the pro next door would go, "This rendering isn't really good at all." And you'd be like, "Which one is it? Is it good or not good?"
Yeah.
Because people that work for Marvel or DC just contradicted themselves, right? But what you do is, if you're getting a consistent, like you've shown it to like 5 or 6 people, and everybody's like, your perspective is off, and it's really distracting from
Ah.
the art, you go, okay, so I'm getting a consistent um, kind of like critique here, and that's where you can go. That's probably something I need to work on, right? So if you have people in your life that you're asking what they think of it, and if it's a comic book, they're reading it and they're not understanding like what, like they keep getting thrown out of reading because
Yeah.
the way you've lettered it. And if that's a consistent thing, then you've lettered it in a way that isn't quite uh, doesn't flow with the art, right? So
Yeah.
you need to. That's, unfortunately, if it's been printed out, then you're stuck with that until you go for a second printing. But like, it's always good to have somebody read that stuff beforehand, just to make sure it does flow smoothly. But anyway, long story short, yes, you if you ask for critique, you just listen. You ask some questions if it's time allows, and you take it with a grain of salt, but
Mm.
you don't get defensive. And and if you do get consistent critique on one particular thing, you go back, you work on it, and then the next time you see that person, you could always say, hey, last time you told me that I need to work on perspective. I've been practicing. Does it look like I've made that, is this clear now? Or you can, if you wanted to just show it to them again without giving any kind of background, to see if they say that, oh, your perspective is, because if they don't say your perspective is off, then you go, okay, you infer that it's probably working, right?
Yeah.
So
Exactly.
yeah, and then when it comes to the teaching part of it, giving out the constructive criticism. I've never been. I know there are people that believe in tough love. I've never been one of those people. I don't think that it works really well. I think that if you tell somebody something is horrible, um, it could really derail them, and
Mm.
uh, like it wouldn't be. It's not necessary. Like everybody, whether somebody, you know, it is, yes, it's very difficult to be a working artist, to make a living at it. But to tell somebody that they're horrible, that they should give up, I know the whole mentality behind that is if you can get through that tough critique, then you'll be able to get through anything. But it's tough enough just to like show your portfolio to somebody. You don't need
Yeah.
to be cruel about it, right? So that's my opinion in regards to that. But constructive critique, as a teacher, um, like you need to make sure that you're being clear. You have to make sure that you um, are understanding of what it is that you are talking about, right? So,
Mm-hmm.
if somebody shows you something, and it's something you're not familiar with, then you don't have to give. You can just say, honestly, I'm not very well schooled in this. So it may be better for somebody else to critique this.
Mm-hmm.
So it's okay to tell somebody, and also, um, you do need to kind of listen to the person in front of you, right? Because as the teacher, you need to know, like, is this something that they're planning on submitting? Is it just for practice? Is it, um, like, has it already been created out? Just to get a better understanding of what it is that they're looking for, right?
Oh yeah. Like, and it's interesting. So one, I love you mentioned sort of play it by the numbers. If you have a bunch of people saying, "Hey, this looks wrong. Something about this isn't quite right. It doesn't look good," and you're getting that, like you said, multiple times, then definitely, even though yes, you've likely taken a very long time to draw whatever it is you've drawn or paint or whatever. Um, if that many people are coming back with the exact same thing, yeah, clearly something's gone a little awry. Like you said, work on it. Um, I also think it's very interesting when you're thinking about sort of criticism and how to take it, um, especially when it comes to taste, because someone could see something that you've drawn, something that Jim Lee has drawn, something that Jeff Lemire has drawn, or something that Adrian Cleric has drawn, um, and all of those things look very different. And one person might go, "Oh, the Jim Lee stuff is the best because they like that super stylized comic book look." Someone else might see Jeff Lemire stuff and go, "Oh, that's the best," and that might just be their thing. And then someone might look at, I want to say, Drango that you're drawing, like a chameleon dude. I'm not sure yet, and think that this is the best drawing that has ever existed. And again, that might come down to taste. Um, but I think when giving criticism, and especially when receiving it, um, I would suggest looking at what people are saying about what it's communicating. Because like your example earlier, if someone has drawn something and your perspective is off, or if in lettering something feels wrong about the lettering, maybe that is actually not delivering the information correctly. Because that's something that I find more important, especially in the world of comics, because there's so much going on. Is just, yeah, are you conveying the thing that you're trying to say properly? Because it might make sense in your head, but once it's on the page, or if you're writing something, once you said it out loud, does it still make sense? And I think that's super important. Oh, trying to figure out what you've drawn, Keith. I don't think it's Durango, the
I don't know
chameleon.
what Durango is.
It is. You know what? I will bring up an image. I might be saying it wrong. Um, let's see here. Durango film? No, definitely not it. Johnny Depp chameleon. Oh, Rango. I had thought.
Like the movie. Yeah.
Yeah, I had thought that's what you were drawing, just because of like the large looking eyes. But then like see these hands going on. I think.
Yeah, I don't really have a preconceived idea of what it is, so could be any of those. It's not like a chameleon, I don't think. But
I'm into it, whatever it is. Well, then, while you're sketching away, one thing as I mentioned earlier, I sort of wanted to talk about community. And in the GTA, I'll say everywhere from Niagara up to or out towards, I guess, on the east end, say Ajax, Pickering, northward, say Vaughan, not Vaughan, that's not high enough, Newmarket, that sort of area. There's a lot of really cool spots. Just straight up local comic shops. I dig them. If you're out there, whether you're watching now with us live, which if you are, thank you so much. I see you. If you are watching this sometime in the future, wherever you might be, however you might be taking us in, thank you. But yeah, there's a bunch of local comic shops in the GTA. Tons of them. They're all wonderful. Whether that's Invasion Inc., which is my local comic shop, Nowhere Comics, which is in the Junction and is mostly online, but you can absolutely go there, and they're wonderful people. Whether you're up in Newmarket with, say, Wayside, the super cool people out there, you can go have a nice drink or a wicked cup of hot coffee or hot chocolate. And so many more. One, support them. Go out, buy books there, help those businesses, get hard copies, enjoy. Yay. But outside of comic shops, there's a lot of really cool stuff going on. So the event that took place last weekend was the Gotham Central Summer Bash. So wonderful event. A bunch of indie comic creators come out. People can check out their books. They had a wonderful, huge tent. And as I understand it, you were there this weekend.
yes, yeah.
So just on that, how was that? Like, what went on? Did you get to have any cool chats with folks, whether they're other creators or customers? I guess I'll say lay people. I don't know.
Yeah, no, it was really great. I think that when I go to so it's a shop run by Carlos and his family, and like I think that it is a I do feel that family when I'm there. I feel like I'm family when I'm there. Like I feel very much that I belong, and I think everybody kind of has that same feeling to them.
Mm.
So like it's a great shop, uh, and Carlos and his crew put on a really great event, so that it's like got loads of creators there and lots of people coming to check it out. So it's got a nice amount of people coming. Everybody's open to taking a look at what you have, chatting with you, and Carlos and his team take care of you throughout the weekend. So you're really, for the most part, just able to enjoy the event, because
Oh,
I get to chat with different creators as well. Like I had some good conversations. See, Jim Zub was next to me on the
nice.
Saturday, and I hadn't talked to him for a while, so we got to catch up a bit. And then Michael, I'm not sure how to pronounce his last name. Simabon. I've known him for a while, and he and I. Let me make sure, because I know I just messed up his name, so I just want to make sure I give him a proper shout out. He was next to me, and we had some good conversations.
Nice.
Simba John. Um, and then yeah, on the Sunday I chatted a bit. I got to chat with and I on the Saturday I talked to Dwayne Murray, who I hadn't chatted
Oh,
with before. He's a writer, works with Sean Daly. Um,
oh, okay.
so yeah, I got to chat with him for a while, and then on the Sunday I got to chat with Scott Woods and Jeff McClinchy, um, who were really great. And so we chatted about graphic design and ideas for potentially creating sketchbooks off of all of my travel sketches I've done.
Oh,
So yeah, like we got some. It was great to get that kind of input from fellow creators who are that's what they do for a living, right? So I was very grateful to get some ideas that I can now potentially pursue um, when I'm ready to if I'm ready to create like some kind of sketchbook from or sketchbook series from all the places I've traveled to, right? Um,
oh yeah.
so yeah, I mean, it, listen, like the art community needs to keep on growing. People need to keep
Hmm.
on creating. People need to keep on uh, making things that help inspire other people. Um,
Hell
it
yeah.
just being an artist or being part of the community, being a creator of something, really makes you a much more well-rounded person. It makes you centers you. It helps make you feel better about yourself. And I think that the more of us that there are out there, the better the world is going to be, right? That's kind of my feeling and my passion. And when it comes to, it's why we do this, right? It's why we do this podcast. It's why I create or I teach. It's why I like to talk to people about this. It's mainly to make our community stronger and bigger and more vibrant and make sure people are aware of their value, right?
Hmm.
What's important, you know, to make sure they know what's important to what they're doing and how it affects other people, all that kind of stuff, right? So, um, having a like an event like the one that Carlos puts on, as well as other comic shops like Wayside, it's really a great way to enrich the community, to
Oh
make
yeah.
sure that people are able to connect with each other so that they don't feel so alone, and so that we can just be healthier,
Yeah.
mentally and physically, emotionally, all that kind of stuff, right? So that is one of the reasons why I'm a huge advocate for having these events and making sure that we keep on having them, right? Because
Oh
lots
yeah.
of shops right now are suffering due to all the things that are going on within the comic book community at large with distribution and
Hmm.
and of course what we're dealing with in the world with tariffs and all that kind of stuff. So all that kind of thing makes it much more difficult to be able to do this, and therefore we need to make sure that we are uh, helping where we can, right? So that's like
Absolutely.
the small picture to the larger picture, right? Um,
Abs-
but yeah, like I think, and I very much appreciate that you're always trying to make sure and you get you provide a place for people to be able to make sure that they can get their work out there, right? Like it's important for uh, um, you know that's why it's a good safe space that a podcaster can provide is a great
yeah.
place for creators to make sure that they can talk about what they do and practice their pitch and make people more aware of what they are doing in the world so that when you do have an event in the real world, people are familiar with you. Oh, yeah, I saw you
Hmm.
on a Wednesday night review with Konrad. Um, Yeah, that was great, and I've been looking to get one of your books or something like that. Right?
Oh, and you know what? If someone ever said that to an artist, and I learned about that, oh my god, I would feel amazing. Um, I had someone once ask me, they're like, "Why do you do this?" Right? Because like I'm not like a super famous podcaster. This is not my day job. I do it because I like it. I just yeah, it makes me happy. Um, and the only thing I could think of to say was if even if I do an interview with someone and that interview results in one person backing the Kickstarter, or the whatever. Maybe they go to a pre-order link or wherever it happens to be. Kickstarter is the popular one. I would be overjoyed. Like truthfully, it would make me so happy. I have had on occasion during interviews, I've had the Kickstarter page up, and I will refresh it just because. And when I see like that number tick up, I don't assume it's directly because of me. It's probably because of really awesome art, or maybe the previous fans of the previous issues or whatever. Um, but like, if even one time it was because someone saw my show and went, even if they dropped in, saw 2 minutes, and went, "Oh, this looks kind of cool," clicked the link and backed it. Beauty, love it. That makes me
Yeah.
happy. But I mean, I couldn't agree more when it comes to the importance of the art community. I love and continue to be impressed by Keith your ability to think micro and macro, seemingly simultaneously, where you're viewing in on I did this specific little event and it was nice and I got to speak with someone and that was great, but then also what that means for the larger picture, how it helps everybody. That just makes me happy, because it's very much a part of why I like to do this and just get people out there. Another event I wanted to ask about, I've brought it up before, um, but I am curious about, is the Toronto Comics Jam. To my knowledge, like I've never been to one.
Mhm.
I've thought about it, but I don't believe I would fit, and I would be like some great power booster there. Um, and because I'm not quite there yet to make my own comics, and I'm not on that part of my creative journey, I'm not sure. But what is your experience with the Toronto Comics Jam?
So I've never been part of it either. Believe it or not, I used to way back in the day. Um, where is it held again?
Um, as
Is
per
it
their
the Cameron House in Toronto?
here's their website, and
So I believe that. So I don't know. I don't have like the information in regards to exactly how they started, but way back, at least over 10 years ago now, um, Cameron House would have like a life drawing type thing where like a drink and draw,
okay.
and um, that then turned into or continued on, but also that I think Shehan uh,
Yep.
started like uh, kind of like a drink and draw, but also you can bring your stuff to sell, um, and then it turned into like a
Oh.
little kind of like a little mini con. Um, so the it's possible that the Toronto Comic Jam was happening at the same time as that. I don't know. I'm not versed in it, so I really don't know if they were always at the Cameron House and I just didn't realize it, or if they've only been there. They were somewhere else, and then they went to the Cameron House. But I when I was doing the those drink and draws, I think I was living in Toronto at the time. So um, I would I met like Case Swirsky there.
Hmm.
That was where I met her. Um, I might have met Michael there. Like I met a bunch of people there that I'm now pretty good friends with. So I would just say if you go, even if you don't plan on, it doesn't hurt to try to draw something. It
Hmm.
doesn't have to be, it can just be stick figures. But also you get to meet people in the community, right? So I would say for you, I think it'd be advantageous for you to go, and maybe even if you were to talk and see if they were okay if you were to do like recording there,
Hmm.
or interviews there or something, right? Especially if it's people, like that are um, maybe they're not people you're familiar with, right? So you can
Yeah.
uh, get like or what just help highlight the because I think is it I can't remember how many hours it is to do the jam. Like is it
Um,
like
it currently it's saying like 7 to 11 p.m.
right? So it's not because there used to also be like the 24-hour um, comic book jams where you would create like a comic book. I think it was 24 or 12 hours. Anyway, they used to do those. And I think that was uh, Ty Templeton used to help promote that
24.
way
Oh,
back. I think so. I think it was 24 or 12 hours or something like that. Again, I never did that either. I think I was a little intimidated by the whole thing. But yeah, so there used to be that as well. So I don't know um, if those were also part of the Toronto Jam uh, group. But yeah, so that's it. I've actually looked
fascinating.
at it myself, and I don't recognize any of those people. So there's I'm always amazed that I've been part of the comic book community in Toronto for over 20 years, and there's still people that I have not met, and if they've been around
Mm.
since like mid to late 90s and I've never met them, it's pretty incredible that or if I've met them, I don't see them very often, right?
Well, yeah,
Um,
exactly. Just sort of in passing here and there.
yeah. So yeah, I mean any group. So maybe you can be the bridge, right? Go and check them out, and then come back and we can chat about it on the podcast, and or you can get somebody from the group to do one of your Wednesday night reviews and get them a bigger audience, right?
That might be a fantastic idea there, Keith. Uh, yeah, like it's interesting because I follow them on social media and everything. Because it's a group I'm very aware of.
Mhm.
Kind of, the name says it all, and I love it. And it comes up in many circles, in folks when I'm just sort of doing what I do. I think for me, my hesitation has been because it is about making comics. Like I said, I'm not quite there. But yeah, I think you're right. It would be pretty darn cool to just go hang out, meet some people, and as long as they're cool with it, just basically chat, do some recording, have some fun, see where it goes.
Mhm.
Because yeah, I saw them post on, I want to say it was Instagram, and there was a picture of the folks that were there, and they looked like they're having a good time. But I'm looking at it, I'm like, not a single person do I recognize, and I think
Yeah,
that's fantastic.
it's so weird though. Like it just I, I don't know, like if there's just other circles of people that are, even um, further removed from the comic book scene. They don't do TCAP. They don't really, you know, um, do any of the conventions. This is their only thing that they do, or they're maybe in other field like animation, and they just come into,
Oh, that's a
you
thought.
know, because like there are people uh, that go off and do like from Sheridan they basically um, go into animation or video games, and while they're really skilled at story making, um, they don't necessarily do comic books, right? Or if they do
Hmm.
comics, it's not anything that they um, uh, promote actively in this area, right? So
Yeah.
you know who knows, like if you know that's where they're from, is they just it's a fun thing to do, but they're not really or in other art fields.
Hmm. You know, I genuinely didn't think about it that way.
Hmm.
Yeah, interesting.
Yeah.
Do you?
So yeah,
Oh,
well, I was just going to ask. I was going to say, um, like in regards to you being ready or not. My personal feeling, and obviously, it's whenever you feel comfortable. But my personal feeling is you're ready when you just like you decide you're ready. Like it's not a there's not like you can literally go to the Toronto Jam and you're ready, right?
yeah,
Like you're not. I guess what I'm trying to say is there isn't some kind of like a line that you need to cross to. There's not like you have to get a bunch of things done first before you're considered ready, right? I understand it's within you personally, but I'm just saying to you that if you were just to get rid of all of that, if you were to say I'm if I just tell myself I'm ready right now, um then you're ready. There's nobody else that's going to judge you for not being ready, right?
hmm,
Like do you understand what I'm saying? I guess
yeah,
it's a bit
yeah,
of a there's a bit of a distinction. Yes, you yourself may feel, like until I have a book out, I'm not ready. But
yeah.
you know what? Like I tell people all the time when they're like talking about, oh, how do you table or all that, I'm not ready to table, and I say to them, honestly, you do have enough stuff to table, you just don't realize it. Like
Yeah.
you can make something, you can spend a day and draw up a bunch of sketches and find somebody that needs, wants to split a cost of a table at a show at Gotham Central Summer Bash or whatever else, for a fairly low cost, and sell it. And now, what I'm saying? Like, so that person's like, oh no, I've got to have a comic book out, or I've got to like be more legitimate in some way in their head. And I'm telling them, you could just, they're telling me they've got a bunch of drawings at home, that they've, that, or it's, a bunch of things that they have, but they want to finish some more stuff. And I go, but why not now? Why not just do it now? Right. Uh, and that's kind of what I'm saying to you, is that, like, yeah, I know you haven't written something to completion, but you could technically take, whatever you've written, um, and like if you have, the an artist to draw something up with you, it could be like an ash can, right? It doesn't have to
Yeah.
be, a good example is when I was talking to Scott and Jeff about, what they're doing. Scott had just created like a 5-page ash can for the show, for the Gotham
Oh,
Central show,
cool.
like that week, right? Like, yeah, he may be a much faster, with experience, having been able to draw a lot. But my point is, if you want to take the time to just take the time to do something, it doesn't have to be perfect. It's just, something that um, shows what you want to do. You can put it out there, right? Um,
Yeah.
so that's kind of where what I'm saying to you in regards to, having being ready, right? You're probably more ready than you realize you are. You just don't have. You think it needs to be more finished than it really does. Is what I'm saying to
Yes. No, I absolutely hear you. It's interesting because like I have very actively tried to sit down and write a comic book.
you. Hmm.
Um, like I've set up Word templates for myself and be like, all right, cool. What would this look like? Storyboard it out, and then start filling in panels. Um, and it just like I'll just do words. So I'll have a 9 by 9 grid just to start somewhere. And I'll start sort of filling in words, and it works. And I could set it up and be all right, cool. I can go for a bit, but for some reason, um, once I get into it, my brain just wants to like stream of consciousness it out, and I think comfortably for some reason, uh, it's easier for me just to open a Word doc and just type away like a madman and create paragraph after paragraph after paragraph. Um, and yes, I could absolutely, I think, crunch that down into a comic. Um, right now, I'm finding I'm enjoying the process of just. It's going to be crude to say this, but word vomit. And it feels more comfortable to be able to have like all of that space, if that makes sense.
Why does it have to be a comic though? We talked about that in the last
Oh,
show. You could
absolutely.
take that word vomit and just read it over, refine it a bit, and then go, I'm just gonna either yourself, or if you want to hire somebody or collaborate with somebody, have a couple of spot illustrations in there, right? So
Oh
now
yeah.
you've got like a prose book with like some spot illustrations printed out. Maybe it's a 5-10 pager printed out. Like go through
Huh.
copy well. Now you've got yourself a nice little prose book that you can sell at comic shop or comic shows. It's not there's no line that says it has to be sequential art. Like you can totally have that kind of thing in there. I mean, realistically, you can just, if you wanted to make it like a prose book, you just get a some kind of book cover created, and there you go. Like like that would be the one thing that you'd probably have to get done. But otherwise, it sounds to me like if the thing that you're more, oftentimes we have certain expectations
Mm.
in our that we think other people are doing it a certain way, and then so we think that's the way we're supposed to do it, and then what you end up doing is you're creating these like um, hindrances or obstacles that aren't necessary, because at the end of the day you do what you feel comfortable doing the way that you feel comfortable doing it, and that's there's no way, nobody's going to say to you you can't do it that way, right? And then therefore
Yeah.
it's not legitimate. It's just that is the way you create, and that's what works for you. And then, I mean, granted, you don't have to put it out there. There's no rule that says, that you create something, it has to be put out for mass consumption. But I'm just saying to you, if that is what you want to
Oh
do, if you're
yeah.
like, if you keep on saying, well, I'd like to be at a show and like to have something there, but I'm not ready yet. Well, I'm saying to you, you're probably more ready than you realize. You just need to like get out of your own way and just take what you've created, refine it a little bit, figure out what it looks like if you were to get it printed, and what your budget is. Don't put a whole lot into it, just whatever it is that you can afford,
Yeah.
and put it out there. And just, how I work, you see how I work, figure out how to pitch it, and just put it in people's hands every time somebody walks by you, right? And therefore now you've got something, and hey, maybe nobody buys it, but at least you've now done it, and you can go
Yeah.
from there.
Keith, you're blowing my mind. I right now, for some reason, like I've mentioned on the show before, I've talked with you about it. I'm finding comfortably, because it's just enough of a word count to be challenging, but small enough to be doable. 6,000 words seems to be a very comfortable length, or
Mhm.
rather, a pleasantly uncomfortable length. And I've got a few of those done now. I have put them out there on a Patreon, so if someone wants to, they can go find it. It's very easy. Um, but I guess I never, in my head, I was like, oh, I could put out like an anthology. I could write a whole bunch of little short stories and put a 300-page book together. But like, yeah, I could just make little zines.
Yeah,
Keith, you're blowing my mind here. I'm
you could.
genuinely that
You,
never
it never occurred to you to.
just make like a little, yeah, yourself. You have done an image for one of them kindly. Put that on the cover,
Yeah.
fill it with my words, sell it for whatever, give you a cut. Same with Kevin Manklow, because he was kind enough to do an illustration for me. Just
And
woof.
you can have a whole series of those, and then eventually, if you decide that, like if you see that people are wanting it and they like it, and they want more, you could always say, okay, now I'm going to sell out of the first 5 of them. I've got
Mm-hmm.
another 5 or 6 that I have on the table, but now I'm going to actually collect all of these into one collection with some new stories and blah blah blah. And maybe the ones before were like just paper covers, but now this is going to be like a nice hard cover to it, or a Bristol board. I mean, I wouldn't worry about that kind of stuff now. You can just daydream about it, or plan that kind of thing as a possibility. But and it's don't worry about the problems that it could occur from it, because it's not really, right now it's not really that important. What's more important is to get your stuff out there, and just to add, we need your voice, right? As I was saying
Yeah,
earlier, we need your voice. We need you to be part of our community, like, so um yeah, there shouldn't be anything stopping you other than yourself, right?
I dig it.
Yeah.
Damn, Keith. All right, just out here blowing my mind, dropping little nuggets of absolute pure wisdom. By the way, if you're watching the show, whether you're now live with us now or sometime in the future, this is episode number 25. Check out the previous 24. Keith's been doing this the whole time. It's just hitting me personally now. Wow. All right, so Keith, show's called Sketchy Goodness. You've been drawing something. What is this? What are you feeling from this thing that you're creating? Like, I'm getting the jungle vibe. It's some sort of large, hairy, slightly anthropomorphic. I mean, it's got arms and what looks like legs, so it's what is it, bipedal?
Mm-hmm.
My fantasy loving brain says owl bear.
Ooh, yeah, that works.
Okay.
Owl bear. There's one part that I haven't drawn too much of, but maybe you'll get it if I do this.
Hold, please. Let me see if I can blow this thing up somehow. I believe there's
I
a
can
way.
make it a little bit
Like that. I mean, it's cute, that's for sure. Also, I appreciate a whole bunch of silence. Generally, not the greatest thing, but I'm marveling here. One thing we talked about this very early on when we started the show. One thing I love about drawing, above all else, I think, is the lie of drawing. Because, whoops, nope, that's not what I wanted. That's better. That's what I wanted. I am seeing what looks like a large creature and perhaps its infant, and they're leaning against a tree. But of course, I'm not looking at that. I'm looking at a digital blank black page with a bunch of white lines on it,
Mm-hmm.
and you're creating the lie of this creature, and I love that, the illusion
Yeah.
of it. And I think because our brains don't work terribly well. And I don't mean like on a mental health level. I mean, actually, our brains don't really work all that great as a human being. Because, like, for instance, you've drawn the larger creature's head. It's got sort of in its brow. It's got these long, what I'm going to say is long fur, and it sort of wafts out to like a Wolverine-esque tuft.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
But you haven't like hard defined a line there, but my brain is going, oh, that's cool. It's sort of, it's got like a square shape to its head because it's got these large brows or whatever. And just the implication of a shape is enough for my brain to go, oh, shape, got it, cool, we're happy. Which sort of goes back to what I was talking about earlier. Are your drawings communicating properly what they're supposed to be communicating or what you're hoping they will? I appreciate you, Keith. You just sort of started drawing and this thing came out of it. But that all comes back down to, again, the communication.
What I find really cool is that without me telling you anything about it, you described it exactly as how I see it, right? So
Yeah.
you have the same language that I do, and I'm conveying it to you without me actually saying anything. I haven't had to say to you, "Oh, don't you see the bear creature with the baby?" I didn't say anything. You described it as the way that I see it, and that's really cool. That means that the way that we're communicating with each other, we're communicating on the same wavelength, right?
Oh yeah.
Um, you're, and I don't know if that's because you're used to the way that I draw. I don't know if that's because you've been watching me draw this as I'm doing it, so you can kind of your brain is starting to like fill in the blanks. Um, you're giving, if somebody were to have never seen this and look at this, are they going to see the same thing? I don't know, right? So I don't know if it requires you to actually watch me draw it, or if it requires you to be familiar with my work, or if it is something that is universal, and anybody that's going to look at this is going to see the same thing that you're doing or you saw and that I was intending for you to see, right?
Hmm.
It's a really cool thing that I'm controlling it in that way, right? That
Oh
I'm,
yeah.
you know, uh, using my the symbols of line to communicate um, what it is that I'm trying to get across. That's really cool to me, right? That's a really cool um, thing to be able to, without saying a thing to you, I controlled the way you looked at something.
Oh yeah. Like and again, the way that you speak about it, I don't know if that's just something you came up with, or maybe someone taught it to you, or whatever. But yeah, the language of how you're drawing, I love the way that you phrase that, because that's what it is, and that language is why so many people might see this and go, "Oh, I don't like that," or "Oh, that's not a good drawing," and other people like myself would go, "Oh, that's super cool. I see what you're doing. I like that a lot." And that's why, like my earlier example, Jim Lee compared to Jeff Lemire, compared to Adrian Cleric, who's a indie comic creator out Edmonton Way, to Keith Grachow. Um, four very different art styles, four very different target audiences, I would say, just in the art alone. And yet, I enjoy them all. And that's sort of comes back to, oh, art is subjective, which is true. That's just a massive statement, but also when you get into the weeds of it, my God, is it so true?
Hmm.
Okay, hold on here. Now you're changing the language here. You're changing your symbols on me.
Yeah, well, it's just because I'm trying to make the composition work a little bit. Um, I'm trying to figure out how to make this so that it's um, interesting. The visuals are a little bit more interesting in a variety. The way I'm
Mm.
drawing versus like I don't want to like have something. I don't want to have this one the arm holding the baby the same length as the arm as the leg. It was
Ah,
throwing me a little bit. So I was like, okay, if I change the way that the arm is being held or the way the baby is being held, then I can um, you change the length of the arm so that it uh, won't conflict with the other
mm-hmm.
appendage. So,
Interesting. Love it. We absolutely do not have time for more questions. We're at 59 minutes. We're a minute to 8. Um, I have a great question though. Real quick, Keith. Um,
mhm,
there are a number of, and I cannot remember the scientists' names or the psychologists who study it or the artists who utilize it. Escher comes to mind, but I don't know if he really did this. But like impossible shapes, because it is possible to draw something and do the lie of the impossible shape, but not be able to create that thing in the 3D world, much like the triangle, the 3D prismatic triangle that works in visual paper, but not out of paper mache. Um,
mhm.
have you ever thought of trying to incorporate impossible shapes within your art?
Um, I'm not 100% sure I know what you mean, but like I have done the artists that did the tool covers. I had to uh, use as a reference, and it's almost like algorithmic shapes, like what are they called? Uh, I'm blanking on the word that's used, but it's essentially like using very intricate shapes. Uh, almost like geometric pattern shapes that I had to
Oh,
use for a graphic novel I was working on. So I had to figure out like how to make that work within the composition. So I think that's about as close as I've ever really done. Yeah, yeah. So the
whoa.
artist that does that stuff like that, um yeah, the tool cover, yeah, lateralis, right? Like creating those intricate, pattern shapes and stuff. I had to do something like that with a graphic novel I was working on.
That's cool. The particular shape I had in mind was basically this.
Yeah, yeah. Okay,
Because
I thought that's what you meant.
yeah, like super basic. This is like the most basic one. Beautifully illustrated with this clearly rendered Lego doing this. Um,
Mhm.
I don't think I've ever seen it done in in a comic or anything, but I thought having a character drawn like that would be super cool. Um, Maybe a thought to explore on a further episode of My Sketchy
Yeah.
Goodness. Um, but Keith, we are at 8:02. It has been a genuine joy, and who knows, maybe I'm going to start publishing some zines to bring to shows in
There you
Taylor. But yes, Keith, absolutely, as always, it was a joy, a pleasure, and I look forward to doing this again in another 2 weeks or so.
Yeah, me as well, my friend.
Awesome. And for the folks out there, as always, like, comment, subscribe. We will certainly see you next time. And if you want to support Keith, the links down below will take you to Keith's site. You can find all of his work. You can follow Keith on social media. Keith, where are you most active on social media? Blue Sky, maybe?
No, Facebook and Instagram still. Yeah.
Boom. There you go. The links for the Instagram are, in fact, down below. So go ahead, click them, follow Keith, and yeah, we will see you next time.
Thank you. Bye.
Golden age to present, digest to oversize. Never miss new comic day. Yeah, no surprise. So where's my no prize? Check the letter columns. Can't find issue 2. Nah, collector problems, cliffhangers, miss.